This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. Black Friday Game Day on Prime is an epic day of live sports. It all starts at 9 a.m. Eastern with the Capital One Skins game. Then, Black Friday football returns when the Bears take on the Eagles at 3 p.m. And it culminates with the final night of Emirates NBA Cup group play with Bucks Knicks at 7 p.m. and Mavs Lakers at 10 p.m. Black Friday Game Day, only on Prime.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton, but where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
Hello, and tonight on the first of two episodes of the Rock Podcast, we discuss Wales's very positive loss against New Zealand, whilst also trying to hope and pray to sweet Lord that we don't get completely flattened by the unstoppable force that is the Springboks. I hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Wrap. As ever, it's me, Harley, in the hot seat. I am joined by Hattie, Dan and Nick. How are we all doing?
Evening, everyone.
Okay, good, thank you.
It's a Monday.
Right.
Well, it's not when you're listening, but it's a Monday.
Yeah, unless you're incredibly keen. So we're going to do things a bit differently. So the URC is going to be back, but we've also got Wales stuff. So this first episode, we are going to talk about Wales' loss to New Zealand and preview the South Africa game. And in our next episode, which will be released tomorrow as you're listening to it, we're going to go into the URC in a bit, to the URC games. So let's get to it. Anyone, I know someone was talking about going to the New Zealand game, but it could have been at work. But I'm guessing, did you go with Dan? So I decided, no, I don't want to be sat on the bench as a back row with all the injuries. So I decided to spend time with my family. But so as we were watching TV, general thoughts on it? How did we like the production before the game started? As that seems to be getting a lot of attention at the moment.
I liked it. I like a bit of a spectacle. I think it, adds to the day, adds to a bit of oomph. I know not everyone's into it, but
mine wasn't quite so successful. I went to friends to watch it in a pub, and just as the anthems were starting, there was a demand to put on the football results, not the actual live football. So the actual TV went up, so we had to wait then for it to come onto another screen and watch it with no volume. So there we are. It's the joys of watching it in Northeast Wales.
Yep, national sport. Don't forget, guys. National sport. It's definitely not football.
I actually thought that the production was good at the beginning.
No,
the anthems and everything seemed fantastic. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I think we went a cappella, didn't we? That's the official musical term, I believe.
Yes.
And I thought what they did with the haka was good as well. Full spotlight, and everyone's had their phone lights out, and I suppose that's the equivalent of old school lighters back in the 90s, wasn't it? When you were, at gigs and stuff, where you'd have a lighter out. But I thought it was good.
They vape.
That's true. Very true. Yeah.
I as much as I bemoan the hacker, I still personally believe it should be done before anthems, just because I feel like it removes final say from the home team if it's not All Blacks playing. But that's by and by. I also don't like Ireland getting two anthems. Just pick one. There you go. That's something to send a debate any Irish listeners now straight on my throat in the YouTube comments.
Yeah, no, you started.
Yeah, but I did think it did add a lot of drama. Again, I do love it when the anthem, when the music cuts out in the anthem, it's just it works fantastic in Murray. When you've got songs like when you've got anthems like that and Flower of Scotland, they just work in a cappella so well in the big crowd.
There are very few anthems that it works for it though, because some crowds just can't sing.
Oh, go on, name names. Come on, don't
Well,
Don't
Ireland.
throw. Oh,
That would. Can you
no,
imagine
not
that a
again. No,
cappella?
you've started it now.
But just
We're gonna,
And
gonna
France are
be
not.
oh god. But
inundated with threats from our friends over the Irish sea now, will be.
thoughts and prayers to the YouTube comments.
Oh, I know. Here you go. Personally, I
Right,
like
so
their singing. It's nothing to do with me. It's Ali and
No,
Hattie.
no, no,
I
it's
I
think
not.
used to
they've.
have
Love
no
it.
issues with
Love
the
it,
singing
Dan.
of the Irish.
I like the Cranberries. I like the Cores. I like Westlife. I like Boyzone. All of those. I like them all.
I love listening to Zombie 27 times during a rugby match. It really uplifts me.
I'm a big fan of the Pogues and the High Kings, and I'm just going to end up going through all the just announce for everyone I just like Irish folk music more than their popular
Yeah,
music.
quick move on. Move on very quickly.
Yeah, let's move on. So Wales were downed by the All Blacks, 52-26. In what actually for at least 50 minutes of the game was competitive.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we've got to. I mean, it was very unpretty by the end, but it was actually a competitive game. I don't think there's any two ways around it. There are some stats though that I think probably show what happened. So, 167 carries for New Zealand. We only got 77. Territory was a bit more even, 55-45 New Zealand to Wales. Possession though, 67% to 33%. Wales made 200 odd tackles. New Zealand had to make like 70 or 80. But actually, I did think Wales were playing all right for the most of it. But I think by the end, just the pressure of losing the kick battle told. I don't know if anyone wants
Yeah,
to
no,
jump in there.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I think they were always going to beat us. I think we was at one point when we scored after half time, I thought, no, we can't. Can we? What we go to 24-21, was it? Something like that.
Yeah.
But then we were the master of our own downfall thereafter, weren't we? Because straight from that try, we dropped the kick off, and then we couldn't get out for 15 or 20 minutes, where they were just camped in our half. They had there was the whole saga around the was it a try, wasn't it a try disallowed, held up, all of this sort of stuff. And it just felt then we couldn't get a foothold back in the game thereafter, and it was kind of one-way traffic. But you're right, up until then, it was more than competitive, and your assessment about the aerial game is spot on. I think we lost that again on the whole. Ironically, when we did win the kicking game and we caught the ball back 3 times, we scored 3 tries from it. Just goes to show that we can play when we do have a little bit of ball, but on the whole, for me, aerial game. And then if I don't want to sound like a stuck record, but if we're going to be hell bent on being so passive in D, these are the results that we're going to expect, because we sit off. New Zealand all game wanted to play deep and out the back. We just sat off and sat off. And the result was however many meters they carried for over 1,000 meters, I think. And that was the end result. So valiant effort from the boys, though.
Our possession, I think, was the worst percentage we've had in 2025, and you're doing that against a really good attacking team.
Mm.
And so ultimately the drop off on tackles, which is an issue because that's not the first game we've done that, the missed tackles, but also then the discipline. When you're making that many tackles, that you're putting that much pressure on yourself, it's going to ultimately have a negative effect on your performance.
I think it was obvious that New Zealand were the better team. We knew that going in, even though it is, arguably people are saying it's a weaker New Zealand side than we've seen, a decade ago. And obviously this incredibly weak Wales team, we all know this. But I think it was like the fourth time in history somebody has scored a hat trick against New Zealand, against the All Blacks. First time a Wales player has done it. I think we scored the most amount of points we scored at home against the All Blacks.
The most at home, the second most in total, with 2000 that World Cup in 2003, where we scored 37, I think, and still lost. So
and still lost. Like, I think, yes, it is a weak New Zealand side, but a weak New Zealand side is still one of the best sides in the world. Like, okay, they're not dominating South Africa and England like they were 10 years ago, but they're still a bloody good team. And I think we came out like a lot better than I thought we would. Even though, we've got injuries, we've got issues, we've got a new coach. I was pleasantly surprised. And I know there are some people who are online who are upset that we're saying that a lot of people are saying it was a positive outcome, but I mean, for a lot of the game, it was close. It was only in like it was the replacements I felt really kind of showed up the quality. We just didn't have the depth in quality, whereas New Zealand do, and that's I think where we suffered a lot, along with the aerial game, as Dan said.
New Zealand still ranked second in the world,
Yeah,
uh,
like but
and they had a lot of experience. There was coming, at the centres, for instance, pairing 18 months ago. That would probably, well, be close to your first choice centres, uh, and they had a point to prove, didn't they? So, that there was a certain challenge there, and that just shows the difference in quality and depth of teams, doesn't it? And in rugby at the moment, there seems to be an increasing gap between the top 4 or 5 teams and the teams which are in the lower uh, bottom half, if you like, of the top 12. They're not really getting that close on the whole to the top teams. They're not really close to getting an upset. So it's more whether they can make a game as we did.
To put it in perspective now, like I know everyone much maligns the world ranking tables, but in terms of ranking points, New Zealand going into this was 16 points ahead of us. To go 16 points down, the team that's closest 16 points below us is Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's that, and they don't really, they have Rugby Africa. That's it. They qualified for the World Cup for the first time since '91. Like that's the sort of relatively gap. So a certain former chairperson who also didn't seem to like the pre-match was right. We shouldn't be celebrating conceding 50 points, but I don't think that is what people are celebrating. I think people are celebrating the fact that one, we could see what was happening. We could see the attacking plan. We could see the defensive structure. Right. I know Dan's going to come in. I know Dan's going to come in and say he still has issues with defense, and I agree because they're doing a couple of things. But the fact is, we can see a direction, which is something we haven't been able to say in the last year.
Yeah, definitely.
We don't beat, like, I'll be honest, only losing by 26 points to New Zealand was considered a good result even at the peak of the Gatland era.
I mean, how much did we lose by in the 2019 World Cup? Because that was like an absolute thrashing, wasn't it?
That was a shellacking, but I mean, we had like.
And that was like supposed to be like our golden era.
Hadley Parks on one leg and Foxy was dead, and I think actually it was the
didn't
ghost of Owl Thomas in there.
Well, I got those in front of me actually. We lost, going back now, our last 5 meetings, we lost 46-6 in 2016, 33-18 in 17, and 40 points to 17 in 2019. So, we can't beat around the bush. We've beaten everybody else in the world.
Yeah.
But we haven't done the All Blacks since the 50s. So the reality was
we were robbed in 78.
Robbed into, yeah, but we've beaten the Springboks home and away. We've beaten Australia. We've beaten all these other top teams, especially during our pomp in the golden generation, if you like. But
are you talking about when PVAX Wales beat South Africa on home soil? Is that the golden era?
Well,
playing the Gatland game plan. Remember, we can caveat out all of this.
Yeah, but there was a lot of that personnel. Yeah. Still,
it's the same.
Still available, still the same people, wasn't it? So, yeah, I thought we were never going to beat them. It's going to take a hell of a top Wales team and a really poor New Zealand team, I think, for us to go and pick up a win over those guys in coming years, just because of the way they play the game. Like I said last week, I think they play more rugby than anybody else as well, and that doesn't suit us. I don't think so. Yeah, going back to the defence thing that Harley brought up, I think that's quite an easy fix. You no end of commentary that, the power game this and the power game that. Well, we only had 33% possession, but scored 4 tries. Our entry converts, so we're doing okay power-wise when we've got the ball. Then we must be, because we get enough gain line to then be able to play out the back and work to those edges, because you've got to have a bit of gain line first. But I just can't understand why we sit off. I know Tandy's defense is to sit off and contain, but if you still want to contain on or behind the gain line. You don't want to be, and ultimately teams just go multi-phase against us because we're not a threat at the breakdown, or we weren't a threat at the breakdown on the weekend, especially without the likes of Jack Morgan and Tommy Raffel in the team. And they just kind of grind us down and grind us down and grind us down, and then we can see the penalty or whatever it may be, and then we're right in and around our 5 meter line. It's hard to stop teams then. So if we're concerned about our lack of power or lack of physicality, then we have to commit with a bit more line speed for me. Get off the line, get into that collision zone, and try and make those soak up tackles on or behind the gain line if that's what we're going to do. Personally, I don't buy into the fact that we haven't got big enough people. Reece Carey's a big man. Dewi Lake's a big man. Adam Beard's a big man. Um, Dav Jenkins is a big man. There's plenty of hulking great humans out there to go and throw themselves around this. And I've said it before, physicality is a mentality. It's not a physical attribute. You've got to want to be able to do it. Jack Morgan's a prime example of that. Jack Morgan's probably 100 kilos, but goes and throws himself around like he's 120 kilos. That's the difference. Dewi's 110 kilos, but and throws it around like he's 110 kilos.
I think a lot of I don't think there was so much, and you will know more on this than me, but there didn't seem to be system mistakes. Quite a few of the tries were individual mistakes, missed tackles,
Yeah.
which went
both seven race tries were the same thing. It was the 10 being sort of cut, trapped in the corner of the backfield, and they just missed a tackle. Dan Edwards sort of made a brave effort, but basically got bumped off, and Jared basically tackled thin air.
Well, we missed 38 tackles, didn't we? I know we made 223, but if you're going to miss 38,
and also Love's try. Is it Love the fullback's try?
Yeah.
They obviously knew the carry can be a bit lazy around the folding off rucks and mauls. While it looked wonderful step and so on, I think that was looked at in an analysis by New Zealand. Said if you get a chance close there, he won't fall quickly, and they targeted that, and maybe 3 times in the game, twice he made a good tackle, and the once it was an easy try.
Again, for me on that, I think it's because he's taken off the line at an angle.
Right. Okay.
I agree with you. I think that's probably something that they've picked on. But rather than the actual fold, I think it's the way that he's taken off.
Okay.
They've gone off at an angle rather than going off square. Now, for me, we should be starting outside of the attacker that you're defending, almost in the passing lane, getting off square, and then jamming in if we have to. But or if we're going to drift, get off the line and then drift out. You don't go until the ball's passed. But I think we're taking off at an angle. We're going off at 45. So as soon as we're off at an angle, you're easy to be picked off, especially as a front five forward. But I've watched it back, and he did have hands on him, didn't he? He just dropped off.
Yeah.
So maybe you're right there, Nick. Is it maybe a little bit of laziness where he's been caught reaching and he's dropped off the tackle? But I thought we missed tackles in the far corner for was it Caleb Clark's try as well?
Yeah.
Where we dropped off 2 tackles. The Sevu Reece try where he did his best Michael Flatley impression and sat Jared Evans on his arse. He won't want to see that again, will he? He effectively falls over. And Scott Barrett, was it a Scott Barrett try as well? Or no, the boy who, what's the guy who plays loose head for him, the big guy where he picked and goes?
Manny Williams.
Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Williams, yeah. Surname Williams, that's the easiest way of putting it. No, I watched this one back, so it's open for debate on me, and he may have scored anyway, but I think she missed a tackle, the tackler there. I know everyone does it. We coach to do it as well, but I think if you have a look at Scott Barrett's actions on that try, he's actually taking the tackler out of the game. He's not attached to his own player. Good on him. He's got away with it. But on another day, maybe that goes our way. So on the whole, it was a valiant effort, wasn't it? We did okay. Our scrum seemed okay. I thought Azarati's been a positive.
Definitely.
Positive for me. Carey as well, to be honest. Thought Carey done okay. Was unlucky not to score really that one time where he made a little bit of a break inside the 22. but there's a theme for me of where things have gone well and haven't gone well all autumn, and they're the things that we need to see rectified really for the Six Nations. And that's we lost the aerial battle again. Why we don't kick more towards Louis Rees-Zammit, who's gone and practiced to be a wide receiver in the NFL. We saw that offload in the dying moments as well. Whereas he's clearly got fantastic ball handling skills now in the air due to the NFL sort of conversion. So maybe we need to alter that. I thought Dan Edwards was good once again. Don't know about you guys. Dan Edwards was good. Thomas played well.
Yeah.
Centre partnership was probably a bit better this week for me as well, on the whole. But I thought we come second best in the back row, clearly missing what would be probably our first choice back row. Not so much Alex Mann again, another workman-like performance from him. But Team Plumtree, yellow card, error off the kick-off. Worked hard again, made plenty of tackles, but I don't know, don't think he does it for me. And Deavesy had a good outing as well, I thought, but he's just not Jack Morgan.
I think
to be fair, if you're punishing players for not being Jack Morgan, you're going to just punish every seven in the country, to be fair.
Yeah, but you know what
I
I'm
think
saying.
there's only one player who comes close to the skill set, and even then I would say he's probably only about 60% of the player.
Yeah, you know what I mean. No, it's just that drop off from, in theory, for that game, we could have been rolling out Jack Morgan, Faletau, and Wainwright, for example, or Cracknell. So, we lacked a little bit there. And don't get me started on the Adam Beard debate. But
I think
there'll be popular YouTubers after you.
Yeah, I think with that back row, it just wasn't balanced at all. I don't
No.
think Mann and Plumtree together don't work.
I don't think Mann and Plumtree work. I don't think Deves and Mann particularly work.
None of it really.
They're all a bit the same. I know it sounds weird, because they sort of all overlap a bit too much.
Yeah, and I think
I feel like none of them really are that hard edge carry, which is something I think Jack Morgan offered in the first game, and Ollie Cracknell offered against Japan and towards the latter. I feel like none of them really are that that tight exchanges carrier. They're all quite good at wide. Deves is pretty good, but again, also first cap. It's awfully hard to say. Oh, by the way, mate, you're starting against the All Blacks. Can you do your best Jack Morgan impression?
Yeah, and I think as well, you've got to be careful on who you're like. You can have a niggly back row, but Alex Mann and Tame Plumtree are both that, and to play two of them, like Alex Mann was getting a lot of warnings, but they weren't necessarily turning into penalties. I think Hugh was counting them in the first half, and he had like 4 or 5, but only one actually was a penalty in the end. And then obviously Tane did concede, I think it was 3 penalties in total. Just to have both of them together, it just didn't work as a back row. I would say though, just to be positive, before we carry on, is that Dav Jenkins had probably one of his best
game ever.
Yeah,
I think that was a welcome to the world stage game for him. I think it was.
He was
just fronted up to take a lot of ball. He was almost like Will Rowlands one of the thankless meters. He wasn't necessarily making lots of meters, but he was making those hard fought ones in the midfield, which it may only be a meter or two, but he's pulling in a couple of defenders and helping shorten the line that way.
He was actually our second top carrier. Bear in mind, we didn't make that many carries anyway. Behind Louis Rees-Zammit, which again is weird, but we carry on.
Hang on a minute. Sorry, Andy. What, second row? Was our second top carrier?
Yeah, he was.
Well, I thought they were.
I noted that. I noted that down for you, Dan.
Sorry, I thought they were there for line out and in rucks. Sorry.
Yeah. I. Do you know what? I saw the stat and I thought, I know a man who's gonna plop that in his brain. But yeah, I thought he had a really, really good game, and not only that, but he was really. I know I said you can only have, it's not great to have too many niggly back rows, but he was the David Jenkins of like the under 20s David Jenkins, if that makes any sense, but like grown up, where like he was niggly and he was getting in places and he was like getting his hands on the ball and he was just disrupting things. But it wasn't, when he first came into the like senior team, he was trying to do that, but he was just getting penalised too much, and it just didn't quite work because he didn't quite have the frame yet, and he was gangly, and he's still very gangly, but what are you going to do when you're that tall? But he's just grown up a little bit more. He's a little bit more mature, and he knew when to do it and when not to do it. And there was one point where all of a sudden I just saw like this huge paw go after the ball, and I was like, oh, well, everyone talks about Adam Beard in a mall. That's obviously Adam Beard. And then I saw the number on the back. I was like, oh no, it's Dav Jenkins. Very proud, very proud.
Yeah, I think he's sort of becoming the player, or certainly on Saturday was the player we always hoped he would become. We've got to give him a little bit of leeway. He's only 22, I think now, going on
Young.
23. But he's sort of been around a little bit. He sort of really came in really straight from the 20s, didn't he? And everybody's talked about his potential, and he's leading Exeter and so on, and obviously captain Wales during the Six Nations campaign without really pushing on. But Saturday was the first game, and I thought, yeah, this lad has got it, and this lad is going to be a stalwart. The problem we've got, he can't play with Beard. I think we talked about this last week, and out of the two, obviously, I think obviously Dav Jenkins, and even at 22, has got much higher ceiling than Adam. Good Adam is in certain areas. You just need a harder tackling, a harder carrying second row alongside him.
Yeah.
No, I'm not buying that, Nick. No, he's there to hit rucks, defend Moles and run the line out. Nothing else.
Not necessarily jump in the line out, mind, just run it. No.
Fucking ridiculous. Again, one carry.
Yeah.
Is my. I know we haven't had a lot for no meters.
He's made over this autumn. He's made 3 carries, 0 meters.
Now, again, I will say that. Yeah, all right. Maybe his primary job and his not his greatest strength is his ball carrying, but you have to be.
Yeah.
You have to be a genuine option, because if you were defending against him, I brought this up last week. If you were defending against, we're running in pods of 3 in midfield. If you were defending against a pod of 3, you know that in reality Adam Beard's not going to have the ball, and if he is, he's not going to make any meters. So you put all your attention onto someone else and double them up. He's just not going to get a ball, And then you look at Dav Jenkins' work rate of 23 tackles and 8 carries and all the rest of it, and it's night and day, night and day. So and there we go. We parked that bus there because I'll get pelters in the comments for slagging off Adam Beard for not doing anything. I tell you what I will say for Adam Beard, and this is where he did make 15 tackles on the weekend, and there were some occasions where I was screaming at the telly for some line speed, and he was the one getting off the line. So he did that well. I'll give him that.
I think I thought Murray was much better on Saturday. I know we still have concerns when playing full back, and I guess he would still be targeted if he's on the left wing. But a couple of times when he had a little bit more space, he was very good. He definitely has a really good kicking game, and that's a lovely option to have in backfield. I'm wondering if they don't play him at full back, we might get onto this later. Might he be better being an impact player with 30 minutes to go? But who do you play instead of him? And it's certainly not this week because we've got to have some continuity.
Yeah. And in a way, I feel a little bit sorry for Murray, because sometimes he's just being beaten to the ball in the air by someone that is taller than him. Come the Six Nations, if Freddie Stewart, for example, who's 6'4", puts a ball in the air, is contestable, and Blair Murray gets there and they both compete for the ball, well, a good big un's going to beat a good little un. That's just physics, I suppose, isn't it? He's nearly a foot taller than him. So it is that trade-off there. I think without doubt he's got a lovely left foot. He's definitely a running threat. Like we need him in the game some way. It's just finding the right place for him, I suppose.
Yeah.
Or sticking him on a stretching rack and see if we can add a couple of maybe extra long studs. I don't know.
I mean, it's you can see short players who can still beat up. Like Aaron says, your Colbys are short, but they still win high balls by getting up in there. Tom Bowen is, again, everyone keeps going on about how he's been in the air, but actually when teams have targeted him, he's outdone them.
I mean,
he can just use the power in his legs.
Lee Halfpenny wasn't tall.
Oh yeah, you're right. Maybe it's a vertical jump thing. I don't know. He seems pretty, in terms of his athletic ability, he seems very athletic, but maybe it's just a vertical jump thing. I don't know. Or he's getting something wrong on the run up, which means that his jump isn't as high as it could be, because he does seem athletic enough to be able to make that difference up. So I don't know. We talked brushed on him previously as well. Like, but bring Plumtree back into the conversation. He got absolutely well done over
He
online
got
a little
picked
bit,
on,
didn't he?
really.
He got picked on a little bit. I just having a look at his stats now. So it was three penalties for the game. According to Rugby Pass. So if anyone wants to fact check, you can go and have a look at the same place as we do. Three pens, one of those with a yellow card, and four turnovers given up. Now, for me, as a back rower, three penalties not great. I think our penalty count on the weekend was like 14-4 or something like that.
Yeah.
Pressure does tell in the end. So we were always going to be on the wrong end of the penalty count. But the worst one for me is the four turnovers given. One of those would be like a sort of unforced error count on that as well, would be the kick-off receipt that he just dropped under very little pressure. That's almost worse for me than the three penalties. Because effectively, what Team Plumtree's done is just given the opposition the ball back on 7 occasions on the weekend.
And when we were just getting back in the game again, similar to, I think we'd scored on those occasions.
Yeah. So we'd scored. He dropped the kick off. The alternative in a parallel universe now, he catches the ball as he should do, passes it in, or to Thomas, or they have one phase, and we're then defending a line on the halfway line rather than defending a scrum in 22. That's the difference.
It is. I think Wainwright and or Cracknell would have probably been better, obviously, and would have been, in fairness, picked ahead of him. He was industrious, and he has assets, and he has got something if he just get aspects of his game right.
I mean, I think I said it earlier on a couple months ago. I feel like he just needs like a mentor. Like, I think he's the type of player that needs somebody a little bit older to just kind of make sure that he reaches his potential.
They always needed Falatau to stay in camp.
Yeah, like
just as almost as a coach, more as a player coach.
Yeah, but, sometimes you just need that, and I think he's one of those players that he needs to have his head focused, and because when he's on it, he's incredible, but sometimes his head drops, and it's as we said, like he just makes mistakes and he gets caught out.
Yeah, I said. Speaking of, I think that one of the unluckiest Welsh players in that game was Gareth Thomas. So I do feel like the penalty, because there was the penalty for the no arms tackle, which I'll be honest, I think he was trying to use arms. I think he just got so low and he just couldn't quite keep hold of his grip. Because that is his thing. He is bit like that. He loves to go for that drop tackle, and sometimes your arm doesn't quite.
That was his second penalty though as well, wasn't it?
In a very short amount of time.
That was the first penalty. The second one then was the offside because
there you go.
Basically where New Zealand just had such quick ball, we couldn't get back. Which again is when the problem. So if you look, a lot of our penalties do tend to be these defensive offsides or but desperate.
Yeah, because we're losing the game line all the time because we're so passive. Everyone's having to work back.
It's one of those negative feedback loops. We can't get the go forward because we're losing collisions, which means we go to a kicking game, which we lose because we're losing it in the air. We're then on the back foot defensively, and then we more back foot defensively, which means we can see penalties, and then you just start inching down the field.
Yeah.
It is one of those things. It does, and the thing is, right? Wales you need to do your homework with this. Holly is one of this breed of referees who are very pro-attacking side at the breakdown. To get turnovers from the a lot of these new referees, and they're all the same. They all it's directors from World Rugby to get the game more exciting for more score tries. The balance is very much in the attack at the moment, which makes it harder for your defence. So actually, being a team that's kicking ball away and being a low possession team is a lot harder now, as opposed to like the Prime Gatland era, where actually you're punished for having the ball. And so you have to be a bit smarter about not so much about not being able to get to, not trying to do turnovers, but being a bit smarter with it, which is something where I feel like the inexperience of Plumtree and Mann, was causing issues. And you just need, we might have almost been better instead of kicking when we were going. No, it's actually just going through those few extra phases to try and go New Zealand into going in for a breakdown they shouldn't have. But
I was just
for that you've got to keep your pods together and not get isolated. Like what happened with Carrie?
I think with the breakdown as well, like if, in case people don't know, if you only follow men's rugby, obviously Holly primarily came through reffing women's rugby. She refs a lot of women's rugby. She's just come off reffing back-to-back World Cup finals. Women's ruck speed at international level is significantly higher or a bit higher than men's international rugby's ruck speed. So she's used to making those decisions very, very quickly. She's very, very on it with the breakdown. She's not a referee you can get away with making those kind of defensive issues with. She will make that decision and you're done. She'll warn you, but she's very, very on it. And I don't know if necessarily if Tandy had done his homework, which was weird considering she's a Scottish referee and that's where Tandy's been.
Maybe
we've
he's
given a lot
just
of
not had a
penalty
lot of
ways.
experience with it.
We've
Yeah.
given a lot
Referee.
of we've given a lot of penalty ways in every game so far this autumn. The discipline is not good enough, and it's helping the other team build pressure. Playing, it's giving us territory away, it's giving possession away. You just can't give away, 10 plus penalties every game and expect to win.
Yeah, but as I said, it's unfortunately it's a compounding factor of other things we talked about. We're giving away penalties because we're not aggressive enough in defence. We're not getting the opportunity to be aggressive enough in defence because we're constantly on the back foot because we lose because of the lost kicking game. And as I said, this all builds. Anyway, I feel like that's enough for a New Zealand game because I do want to preview South Africa.
Can I just come up with a 3-word and see if you agree with me? Dignity and defeat.
Yeah. You hang on a minute. Hang on. He'd practiced that before he came on here. See the way that?
Yeah, no, that's
my
why
mate in Australia texted me.
It just rolled off the tongue. Oh, I got a good bit for the segment. Let's have a 3-word. Oh, I got one.
Oh, it wasn't mine. I'm not claiming mine at
all. Anyway, so move it. So in the test that no one really wanted, I mean, we all agree we like the money, but I think a general consensus is maybe it would have been better if it was when everyone else had it instead of stealing off, on a free weekend when we might have been able to blag a few more of our English players.
South Africa had a game before anyway, so we couldn't do it.
I mean, there's another question about, is the choice of opposition, but should we really be playing three of the top six sides in the autumn?
Not really.
Yeah, and I think this is back to Nick's point at the start of the pod, whereby I think Nick mentioned, the top 5 or 6 teams seem to be widening the gap on everybody else. Saying that, maybe Ireland are starting to have a little bit of a come down now, but certainly, your France's, your South Africa's, New Zealand, England's, certainly Argentina on a continuing upward trajectory that everyone else, and you've got to put Ireland in that bracket as well at the moment, are continuing an upward trajectory that no one else can keep up with because, Scotland are not going to achieve anything. That's quite clear. And, their under-20s are absolute dogs at the moment.
I think they've only just been let into the top level for the World Championships now.
Yeah, they've played
quite a while out at the bottom in the second tier.
Italy are improving, but at a slower rate. Again, both of those nations, just FYI, are 2 pro team nations. And then you got Georgia, who can't beat Japan at home. Beating Japan at home's not for everybody, folks. 6 nations teams can do it, the rest can't. So I think maybe we that gap. If we don't get things right, I know we're not discussing this now, but if we don't get things right this time around with Mr. Redding, whatever the pathway plan and everything else is, that gap could be massive in 2 or 3 seasons' time. Because I tell you what I did notice as well before, and this will segue us back to South Africa. They beat Ireland on the weekend, but they also had 2 other teams, 2 other younger teams, Ireland schools and South Africa schools, and a 19s international, and they both got absolutely spanked by the Springboks.
Yeah, their under-20s is scary good now.
World champions. So I think what South Africa have managed to do with Rassie in play, and clearly other nations haven't done this, is they've improved the pathway whilst they're good. Because it's doing better than it has.
Revolutionary.
I mean, the
Yeah.
revolutionary women's thing as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
all right, the team isn't particularly much now, but they've seen the potential and they've just gone all in on it.
Yeah, well, you say that they went in equal at half time against the reigning world champions in their first ever quarter final. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, they're not necessarily an established nation, and they haven't really got any like proper competitions other than WXV and getting into the World Cup. You know, and they basically, you know,
yeah.
they were a team that people thought, oh well, weren't even expecting them to get to quarterfinals, and they just went and they've, I said, they've jumped on it. I was like 150 contracts.
Yeah, it's the most out of
Like that's
any
yeah,
country by a significant amount.
anyway,
It's
this is a lot of talk about South African side. We are definitely not we're not playing right now. Although I'll be honest, I would peg the South African women's against Wales men, to be honest, because their scrum is actually
And I'd pay
phenomenal.
to watch any South African women's side, quite frankly. Not sure I'd pay to watch the Wales men's side right now.
I think that's a bit harsh.
Well,
No, no Ben Thomas, no party for me.
Oh,
No
come
party.
on. Come
I
on.
don't see this Wales men's team doing a 15-man line out.
Hope not.
No, yeah,
Not
no,
in
yeah,
the,
yeah.
I don't know, with Jockey involved, he
Who
might
knows?
talk nicely to Danny Wilson and say, I would like to do this, repeat this Cardiff move. I'd love to see the centres lifting each other in the line out. Anyway, so current our actual opposition, which are the Springboks men. So their games this autumn so far, so absolutely hammered Japan 61-7 in London, then beat France, both beat France and Italy, 32 points to 17 and 14 respectively, both of those with a permanent red card. And as we've just mentioned, they beat Ireland 24-13. And actually, to be honest, I think that score flatters Ireland quite a bit. To be honest, I feel like South Africa didn't quite make the most of that, but world champions seem to be able to just draw 23 names out of a tombola and be pretty dominant.
Yeah, well,
Not really
they've
much.
also
This
they've
this
also
is going
gone
to be
to New
about
Zealand,
survival,
haven't
isn't
they?
it? Really?
Yeah, they've gone to New Zealand and won by 40 points over in New Zealand this season as well. They are at the moment the team to beat, aren't they? They
Yeah.
are the best
Super.
team in the world. There's no doubt about that. They got the best coach in the world, in my opinion, in Razzie. Um,
But he's not the official coach of the year.
Who is? I haven't seen the awards, but
It's
actually, we'll
John
save that for the
Mitchell.
news.
oh, come on now.
It
Come
was
on.
given
Please,
out months ago,
I could have gotten the
Harley.
Red Rose. I
Come
could
on
have
now.
coached the Red Roses to a World Cup.
Yeah, I think that's the point, and I give it the Canada blow. Anyway, we digress, but yeah, they're a formidable outfit, and it's batten down the hatches this weekend, I think, because
The other thing I would say is, whilst we are obviously going to be a poorer team with some of our best players not available, we've got to have a good team, a very good team, with some of their players not available as well. If this was an A fixture and had been played on the 1st of November, it probably would have been a decent game because, in the old days, and I'm old enough to remember games where caps weren't even awarded for some games. So it has some merit. It's just when it's been played and the impact it's having on our URC teams more than anything.
yeah, I don't disagree with that, and I also think as well, like we mentioned earlier, that the choice, unfortunately, is the Springboks in there. We know that they're going to be depleted this weekend as well. I think they've sent a load back to Japan. Someone may have the exact number. Is it
13, I think.
13? Unfortunately, their strength in depth is much greater than ours.
Absolutely.
And I can only see it going the way of, like when the Stormers played Scarlets at Parker Scarlets, and it was, what was it, 30 odd 3 or something, 40 odd 3, some way along those lines. I was listening to some pods earlier on in the day, and someone going, was one of the Times, the Ruck podcast, can Wales lose by 100? I don't think that's going to be the case, but we're going to be well beaten on the weekend, purely because they'll just keep the ball, kick, we'll lose the aerial battle, scrum and line out, they'll do us, they'll maul us. and we'll lose that physical confrontation 1v1. And slowly but surely they'll just grind us down, and I suspect it'll be 40 or 50 again.
But even then, I said they're a bad matchup for us because they are one of the best aerial teams in the world. I'd argue maybe, I said, I think the only real argument is maybe Argentina. As Argentina or England as challengers for that at the moment, the way they're playing. I think it's a strong set piece. But it's not like they haven't, like one of the big focuses they seem to have had this year is getting flashy as fuck, to use the technical parlance.
They'd done everything else. They'd perfected everything else. So
yeah, put the sprinkles
insert
J
on
from
top.
the in between his meme here. Completed rugby, completed it, mate. They are, So you kick loose to them, and then they've got back 3 players and Sash Feinberg, Zulu. But I'll be honest, I kind of want to see play because he's electric. I also don't want to see him play because I just don't think it's fair. I don't think he should be allowed to play any team who is any international side who isn't in top 6. It's just otherwise it's just not fair because he's the epitome of just doing whatever the hell he wants and it working.
With that, then, do you think we can keep him below 7 tries? Because that's been our biggest bugbear, is that when we play decent teams, they're scoring 50 points plus and scoring 7 tries. So is that our first aim, to keep them below 7 tries?
Yeah, it has to be, doesn't it? Has to be. But then we've got to win the A. We've got to be better in the A. This is the point, I think, because when teams are kicking and putting it up in the air, they have we have a 3 or 4 phase shutdown. They go nowhere. They kick. They win the ball back more regularly than we do. When we kick, we're flapping the ball back. We're tapping it down. It's a bit of a shit fight to get a ball back, and we're not winning those sort of second balls to coin a footballing term. Whereas this South Africa team are, like Harley said, arguably the best in the world at it. They'll box to compete and kick to compete, and they get the ball back more readily than we will, and they'll just inch their way down the field without exerting too much pressure. I got no doubt that they'll take scrums at any given opportunity and milk a scrum penalty, which ultimately moves us down the field, and then they'll come alive in the 22. As simple as that.
On the positive side, we're starting to show some good shape. There's going to be some changes but do you think our shape will change, or do you think with the change of personnel we can still keep the same shape?
Yeah.
I think
they got to.
Ideally you want to keep the same shape, really, but I think we need to be more aggressive in it. And I think at line at time as well, we need to be more aggressive in defence, because I think they're just giving, it's 42 out of 42 lineouts.
Yeah.
For teams against Wales, I don't think we're counter jumping particularly well or particularly smart.
No.
I also think a lot of when we talk about, are we going to concede 7 tries? Is it going to be more? Is it, as Dan said, the podcast, are we going to concede 100? I think a lot of it depends on the team that Razzie puts out. He hasn't necessarily been afraid in the past to put out almost a development side, but with full caps. Especially against smaller teams. Yes, they might have, a big name player in there, or a couple in there, but he's not afraid to do that. I'm really hoping we get a weakened South Africa side, and that's who we play. And I think it'd be more of a contest. I think it's more useful for them. It's more useful for us, rather than them put out their big name players and we just get smashed. I don't think that's helpful for anybody.
They're going to be missing quite a few players. Basically it's South Africa URC versus Wales URC team.
Yeah, but the South Africa URC team
I know.
bad.
I'm not saying that. Didn't say that. But some of the biggest names who play in Japan and England are not going to be available.
What I will say though on that is, when you mentioned URC versus URC, that the boys are battle hardened against that. These boys know what's coming on the weekend. And let's not forget, the Ospreys have just tore South Africa mind. Come away with bonus points in both games, I believe.
Only the first one.
In the first one.
Second, yeah.
But it was, they haven't got battered in either of those games.
Physically, no, definitely.
Not physically. Cardiff have beaten. Which they beat? What's the team? The Lions.
The Lions first up, but
beat the Lions first up. The Dragons have drawn,
but we've beaten both. We've beaten both Stormers and Sharks in the past as well. We have beaten these sides.
Yeah, the Dragons have drawn against. Dragons have drawn against South African opposition. So we know what's coming. The Scarlets have been out to South Africa, and whilst the Scarlets are on a poor run of form at the moment, they managed to score a couple of tries. So we know what's coming. These boys have playing against the South African opposition week in, week out now, and have done for a couple of seasons. So they're not gonna, we fear no man. We know what's coming. Pay them the respect that they deserve. But what have we got to lose again? All right, if we keep them to under 50 and it's 40 odd, but we score 4 tries, effectively come away with what would be a losing bonus point, I think we'd all go, do you know what? They've had a good go.
Yeah.
Again, with a weakened team. And that sounds really defeatist because I know people are coming out going, we're celebrating, losing by 40 or 50, but ultimately, that's kind of where we are at the moment. Come the Six Nations, when we play in Italy and we play in Scotland, they'll be expecting us to do a job because I think we got the ability to beat those teams. But yeah, let's. What have we got to lose? It's a free shot. Let's go out and play. Might as well be like Kevin Keegan's Newcastle, and if you're going to score 3, we'll try and score 4. And but we've got to be better aerially. If we win the, if the stats on the aerial game are better and we have more ball to play with, if we're going to end up with 30% possession again, they are going to roll over us. But if possession stats are more 50-50, then I think we'll do okay.
Just sort of, I'm just going to go through our last 5 games against South Africa. So these first 2 of the South African tour, that pivot led, so 1-point win to us. Then they beat us the next game 16 points. Then Rugby World Cup warm up, they beat us by 36. That funny international, which was South Africa's home game, the out window test last year, which was their home game, but played in London, they beat us by 28. And then, so, that sort of summer warm up. And then in the autumn, then they beat us by 33. So, and there, we are lucky to, we scored 13, 14, 16, 13, 12. So for me, if we can get above 20 points, that's already an improvement against them.
Yeah.
If we can do what we've done against Argentina and New Zealand and scoring 4 tries and we're getting close to the 26, 30 points, even better. They scored, 12, 30, 52, 41, and 45. So, if we can, we can even arguably some of those teams I think were actually worse than this one and the one that we potentially could put out, and we're playing worse rugby. For me, it's not infeasible that we can keep them well below 50.
Yeah.
Will we is another question. So I think now we do need to talk about the team. So Nick, do you just want to give us a quick squad update?
Yeah, obviously brought a number of players in, mainly from the Austrian forwards again. They've also brought in unfortunately Belcher's not going to be fit, so they brought another Evan. What's his first name? The other hooker, sorry.
Evan
Lloyd.
Evan Lloyd in, and they brought Elliot Mee in as well. So I don't know whether that's Ellis Mee. Sorry, I don't know whether there's a doubt over some of the outside backs, maybe because Rogers did seem to go off, but he did come back on, didn't he? On Saturday.
Rogers has been sort of like in and out, but obviously we're losing Louis Rees-Zammit, so I'm assuming that's why Mee's come in for that. Otherwise, and then also obviously losing Maxwell as well, who could cover that 13-14 option. So I think it does make sense to bring me in.
And then obviously the Osprey forwards are Ratty and Gavin Phillips. I think Ben Warren was already there last week.
Yeah, Ben Warren's already been called up.
So
as was Joe Roberts.
Yeah, and Joe Roberts. So I think when we come top of the team, I think some of those players might well go straight into the starting 15.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. It's going to be a toss up between Rio Dyer, I think, and Ellis Mee over who goes in.
Yeah. Should we try and piece together this sort of squad? So I'm sort of running through it in my head at the moment. So at the moment I'm thinking of a front row of purely based on cap number. Basically, this is the reason I'm building for it. So Gareth Thomas, Debbie Lake, and Kieran Azarati.
Yeah.
I think, or do we want to go with, say, maybe bringing Southworth or Ben Warren on
you
to
got
start,
no,
just basically so that there's someone to come on for them if they are having a horror show.
Yeah.
Whereas if we have to bring them on after 40 minutes, then we don't want to.
Yeah, but it could be done and dusted. We could. We haven't got the luxury of having proper finishers in the front row at the moment, have we? I think we got to start and try and get a foothold in the game. If we had people that were like for then like we have had in recent weeks, really, with Carey and Nicky Smith or Gav Thomas and um,
Azarati and Griffin.
yeah, that are all very similar in quality, slightly different, but then you go, yeah, okay, it doesn't really matter who starts. It's a little bit horses for course, but do we really want to start Southworth, for example? Bless him. That's nothing against him, but that's in at the deep end, isn't it? And we don't want someone's international career to start with a bollocking against the box. I think we need to get a foothold.
I think they're the ones, as Harry started with. They're
absolutely.
The ones with the most experience.
Yeah,
so I think I'd start with them.
Absolutely.
And lock pairing, I'm going with, again, I'm basically picking the ones with caps. So I'm going with Rhys Davies and Ben Carter. Yeah. I mean, given how little any of them have played this autumn, I mean, throwing James Fender into the mix wouldn't. I mean, to be honest, I feel like Rhys Davies only has 2 or 3 caps. So I feel like an uncapped player and Rhys Davies is, it's whichever one trains better to me. Because I feel like it's such a horses for courses decision there. But I'd say I'd still probably put Carter in there as a little bit more experienced. Has been captaining the Dragons, so at least you've got a bit more leadership in there to back Derry up.
Yeah.
But, I feel like we have really been shafted by Tandy not picking any of these second rows at least on the bench, and giving them some meaningful minutes.
Agreed.
Yeah, back row, I'd stick with some continuity. I know we've sort of referred to the man Deves maybe not working, but for me, they're the 2 in possession. So I'd start them on the flank, Man and Deves. And then just hope that Wainwright's perhaps fit to start at 8.
Would you not start Morgan Morse over?
Well, not if Wainwright's fit, no. I think Morse had a decent start. But if Wainwright's not fit, I'll be honest, I prefer to see more starting than Plumtree. Yeah. But if Wainwright is fit, he starts.
What I was thinking is I'm pretty sure Morse played 7 before for the Ospreys recently, and it wasn't bad.
Not very effectively.
Fair enough. Or have Man at 7. Like
Alex Mann. It's a bit like that when Alex Mann plays 7. It's not really having a 7 there. You're looking at another 6 or 8.
But would you rather just have? I don't know how effective is an out and out 7 going to be against South Africa where we're getting pummeled.
Yeah, but if you don't slow the ruck speed down.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, you got to slow the ruck speed down. There's only 2 ways of doing it. You either win the collision to slow the ruck speed down, which we're not going to do. So you need a ruck threat. So therefore, I'd go with Deves to start. At 7, I think that's the right call because he's the nearest thing we got to a ruck threat in there. And then you're right. If Wayno's fit, he starts. If not, we go with Morse.
Yeah, so right, backline then. I'll go with Hardy just because he's the one who's had game time at 9.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Edward's done nothing for me to
he's been good.
Dropped, so
he's been good, yeah. Keep him in there. The more time that boy gets in the chair, the better he'll get. I think his stock's gone up this autumn series, and unless touchwood, the injury gods are good to him, and he'll be starting Six Nations for me as well.
Yeah, I think I said any arguments, and then we'll go centre partnership. I'm going to get 13 out of the way because I feel like it is obvious it's going to be Joe Roberts because there's not really another 13.
Yeah,
I know. Rogers covered in there during the end of the Six Nations and did pretty decently, but let's get an actual 13 in there.
Yeah, and because they played the Scarlets, Hawkins with him.
Yes. I thought Hawkins went okay on the weekend.
Yeah, chuck Hawkins in, send Ben Thomas back to Cardiff. We could do with him against Zebra.
Back
Right,
three.
and
Back three. Well, Rogers, Blair Murray, and then.
Does Ellis Mee get parachuted in, or
Not
do
for
we
me.
bring in? Or
I
do
give
we
Dyer.
say start
Dyer's
bring
been there. Dyer's been there the whole time. Unless you've got to change a full back, Dyer starts on the wing.
So this is going to be my thing. So the options we've got. So we're probably looking at Rogers and Murray playing. Rogers, I'm just sort of penciling in on the right wing, and then do you bring in Jacob Beetham as your 15 option, which is a risk because again he's not really played much. He's had those injury issues. Or you bring Rio Dyer in as someone who's sort of been there, done that. You know, as much as he's been maligned for some of his form, both for Wales and Dragons, he is very good in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you need.
This is a question I'm throwing that one out to everyone.
It's going to sound like a cop out now, but literally, whoever has been best in the air in training and whatever the stats are in URC for the boys that have played, whoever's the most competent in the air has to start. So if it's got to be data driven, it's got to be data driven. But because that's what we need to win the ball back when teams kick the ball to compete. And it's got that sort of 6 second hang time on it. We need those people to be able to get to win the ball back for us. So. I really don't care who it is as long as it's the best man for the job. So stick who you want in there, Harley. I don't mind as long as they can. If Tandy comes out and goes, look, we put Beetham in there because his stats in the URC are good, and in training his high ball work has been fantastic. Then I take him on face value and we stick him in there. Alternatively, if it turns out to be Rio Dyer, then and we don't need to shuffle around, then great.
Yeah. Well, I'm sticking Dyer in on the left wing, Rogers on the right, and Murray at 15. Because again, Beetham, come back. You can come back to Cardiff. We'll have him.
Here you go. Go.
So I'm not sure if Winnett's fully fit yet. Unless someone wants to go against my very selfish very much. I'm taking my ball home with me. Screw you guys.
Do you know what?
You don't like my players? Off you go.
The Scarlets played not horrendously against Quins the other day. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. So.
What you're saying is just throw Ellis Mee in and just accept that the Scarlets will have no back line other than Gareth Davis and Sam Costello. And then you've got Eddie James and John Williams.
We've got and Eddie James was absolutely incredible, but that's not for this pod.
To be fair, he was injured. I think he was still technically injured when the squad was announced.
Yeah, he was. This is his first game back in like months after, I believe, back surgery. So I don't mind him taking the autumn off.
Right, then we get to the fun of the bench. So 17 and 18, I think is pretty easy. You've got Southworth and I suppose Gary Phillips has caps, but are you going to bring him into the squad and chuck him in ahead of Southworth?
Gary Phillips hasn't got he's been in the squad, but he's not been capped.
I thought, did he not get captain? No, he didn't in Japan, did he?
No. How many caps Danny Southworth got? No,
this would be his debut. So I think either way, it'd be a debutant there.
Well, to quote Nick, then it's Hobson's choice.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Southworth because I'm just going to go on the whole of he's been in the squad.
Yeah, you've got to give some credence to that, haven't you? They've been working in training, so they were picked in the first place. So I think if it's a 50, it's not even a 50-50 call, is it? I think you've got to go with the people they thought were the best in the first place.
Yeah, and then I think Ben Warren at tight head because I'm pretty sure they didn't call up another tight head because I'm not sure there is another one.
It's Chris Coleman.
Chris Coleman.
Yeah,
I forget he exists. Sorry. Again, by that logic, does Chris Coleman get in because he was in camp first?
Yeah, I would personally.
Yeah,
I know it's, and for the very same selfish reasons, I don't want Ben Warren getting injured. You can see him get splinters.
You're saying he can go home? He can come home as well.
Splinters in his bums. No, he won't be home. They'll have to have a travelling reserve, so to speak, on the so he can get splinters in his bum.
Yeah. And then for the hooker spot, I've gone with Brodie Cochran.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I know Evan Lloyd has had more caps, but again, Coughlin's been in camp. He had his game time.
Yeah.
I have been quite open. I think Coughlin at the moment is a better player. It's not to say I don't think Evan Lloyd can be as good as if not a better player. I just think Coughlin's playing better at the moment.
Okay.
Right, lock option, James Fender. Again, the last of the original squad.
Yeah.
Which will take the Ospreys 2 caps ahead of where Cardiff as the team that's producing the most Welsh internationals. Just getting that in.
Well, you know, I mean, if Ben Warren got capped, you know, I feel like that's joint because you stole him off us. Um,
What
and
else
I
we
think you
got?
find Ponty Keene plays within the Cardiff sort of region and the
That's a
community
region,
game.
yeah, that is, yeah, it is.
I saw Dav Jenkins played for Porthcawl, and
Ah, yeah, go on.
we can go down this route if you want.
Yeah, we'll go
I
down
know
that
it's
rabbit
a bit
Tick the
like when the
box.
Scarlets tried to claim Josh Adams. It's like, well, not really. He came through Worcester Academy.
Yeah, but
You
Nick
let him
likes to
go.
claim Jack Morgan, so
He was always an Osprey fan.
mm,
Cumtur is
But
in
anyway,
Australia.
on the bench. So for the 20 jersey, Morse if Wayno's fit,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Plumtree if not.
yeah.
And then do we fight fire with fire with South Africa? Do we have an extra forward on there? Can we afford to have an extra forward on
do
there?
we have enough forwards?
Do we have an extra forward?
Well, I said that's the thing. You could have like even with Morse on there, you could go for Ratty, who's in the squad, who again is a second row six coverer. I don't think
Yeah.
international level he'd be particularly effective as a six. I just don't think he's quite
Well, you'd
dynamic
have the
enough. But you've got
option,
him,
Plumtree.
you've got Plumtree.
Yeah,
And I mean,
maybe.
we say that we can do a 6-2 bench, but South Africa could surprise us all and do 4-4 again.
Yeah.
So
Or even five.
Is
Even the
this
other way,
when they
five
claim
two.
that
They might have all
Andre
backs.
Esterhazen's a back or a forward, depending on their mood?
yeah,
Yeah.
I actually think they
Anyway,
are.
any thoughts on that?
They
Or are
are
we just
actually,
going
I
to go
think
with
they're
5
running
3?
out of forwards actually, South Africa, but with suspensions as well and non-availability. So they might just go the old-fashioned 4-3.
And let's be fair, they don't need all that many forwards against us. Let's be
No.
honest.
I,
Right.
I think a 5-2 option maybe worth thinking about because the forwards are going to be the ones getting through the bulk of the work on the weekend. And I look at the personnel in the squad, and it's not as if we've got a game breaker in the back line to come on the field. It's not like we're bringing someone on and
No.
going, oh, Stardust, last 20 minutes. You know, we haven't got a Louis Rees-Zammit coming off a bench or Blair Murray or whatever it may be. So we're effectively just going like for like on the bench.
Again, you can send Callum Sheedy right back to us. It's fine.
So, for example, if we went, you've got to go for a specialist scrum half. So I'm assuming Ruben Morgan
Ruben
Williams
Morgan Williams. I think
would
he's
be the
probably
one.
competent enough to cover the wing as
Yeah.
well if
And
needed.
then Ben Thomas covers your midfield
Yeah.
for you.
No,
Everyone else.
He's going to Parma. Screw you all.
So
You don't get to play with him.
yeah, so that would be the way you're doing it, wouldn't it? So no one's you're not thinking to yourself, oh look, we've got to have so and so on the bench because he's a game breaker. We haven't got that ability at the moment. Whereas we know the forwards are going to be getting through a shit ton of work. So yeah, I think I'd be going 6-2, stick that other forward on the bench.
Yeah, who'd we go with then? So would we go Plumtree or would you go for a Ratty? Or would it depend on whether or not Wainwright's fit?
it depends on whether Wainwright's fit. I think.
Depends on
Or
when
do we have Evan Lloyd and see if he can rekindle his love of being a number 8?
No, I think I'd go Plumtree just because he played on the weekend.
And he's a good line-out option.
Good lineup option.
That
yeah.
is the thing as well. He is a
Yeah,
very good
because
line
we'd be
for
missing
us.
we'd be missing Adam Beard, won't we? So we'll need someone to do all our lineup work for
So
us.
yeah,
Just the calling though, not necessarily the jumping.
Yeah, and we don't want to steal any lineouts because we've 42 out of 42 for the opposition. So if we can go like 50 out of 50, that'd be a great. Let's not try and win any ball back.
I love how you think South Africa are only going to have 8 lineouts.
I know. Well, come on, there's optimism. So yeah, I think
Right, so I'm gonna do one. I am gonna. I agree with you with the makeup and the sort of feeling you're going for with the number 23 jersey. So I agree, but I'm gonna raise you Ben Thomas and go for the riskier option of Jacob Beetham, purely in the fact that he has covered 13, and you can use Hawkins as the 10 cover.
they do that
Because Beetham has played a bit of 13, a bit of wing, and a bit of fullback this season.
You just want Sheedy
which I
back.
feel like it gives him better.
You just want Sheedy back.
I want Sheedy and Ben Thomas back. I have not hidden this agenda at all.
They'd be TR in anyway. You ain't gonna get them back. They'd be travelling reserves. I'd be surprised if you get them back. They'd be TR. So yeah, I don't care who you stick. And this is, I suppose, like you go back to Obson's choice here. I'm not really bothered who you stick in that 23 jersey. You got Ben Thomas who can cover 10, 12, 13,
15, if you
15.
really hate
Yeah,
yourself.
beat them 13, wing 15. Sheedy, 10, 15 maybe at a push, a real push. So,
Yeah, I think he's very much like Dan Edwards. He is a 10.
So
that's it.
I, I don't, I'm not bothered who you stick in that 23 jersey. The the impact that they're going to have, I think, is going to be minimal.
You say that, but wait for Beetham to come on and kick the winning penalty for
Yeah,
73
okay.
meters.
I hope he does. I really hope he does.
Right, so the sort of squad that I have sometimes listened to my co-hosts and sometimes just completely straight up ignored. So we have got at fullback Blair Murray, then Tom Rogers in 14, Joe Roberts and Hawkins in the centres, Rio Dyer on the left wing, halfback partnership of Dan Edwards and Kieran Hardy. And then the pack we've gone for front row Gareth Thomas, Dewi Lake, Kieran Azarati, lock pairing of Rhys Davis and Ben Carter, then back row of Alex Mann, Harry Dees, and Aaron Wainwright. Brackets Morse. On the bench, we've got Coughlin, Southworth, and Coleman as your front row replacements. James Fender and Tame Pumphrey, sort of in that sort of the second row, six together. Morgan Morse in the 21 jersey, brackets Ratty, for obviously if the things go. And then our back replacements will be Ruben Morgan-Williams and Jacob Beetham. That's what I'm going with, just purely because I think you get better all coverage. Because again, I'm not looking for impact. I'm just making sure if someone's injured, where can we plug the hole? And if three backs get injured, we've probably already lost by 40 anyway.
Yeah.
Look, as long as nobody does what Mason Grady did that time, where he got turned out completely inside out, and it was possibly one of the most embarrassing tries I've ever had to watch Wales concede. That's fine with me.
Most embarrassing Wales men's tries we've seen conceded.
No, because when Wales women concede, I do this.
I was going to say I've seen some pretty shocking ones from the women, because equal opportunities. Right. Anyway, I think that's everything for. Anyway, that's everything for part one. We will. I mean, by the magic of podcasting, it will be a few minutes for us, but for you guys, it'll be another day. We'll go through the URC previews. All the best to Wales, and hope no one gets too badly injured. Ta-ra.
Bye. Bye.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hi, this is Robert Mays from The Athletic. This time of year always gets busy, but that's when having Peloton in my life really makes a difference. The new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ, helps me fit in great workouts no matter what's on my schedule. It's Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Peloton IQ plans your workouts, tracks your progress, and corrects your form so you can train smarter and make the most of your time. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.